Okay, everybody, we're going to be starting in about 5 minutes. I think Tony's in the background. Tony, are you there? Can you say something?
I can say something. Hello, everybody.
They
Looking
can't
forward
see
to.
you, so you can make faces
Oh,
if you want. It's okay.
well, I was born with this funny face, so I don't know how much worse I can make it.
All
But yeah,
right, well,
looking forward to seeing everybody.
Tony will be on here in about 5 minutes. Everybody, get a cup of coffee, adjust your chair,
Grab a beer.
grab a beer. I had one earlier. It's okay. You guys better catch
Oh,
up.
I haven't had a beer yet today. I haven't had a beer in several days.
Oh, my. Oh, what do they
I
call that?
know.
Dry January. A dry
It's
January.
not. It that there was no specific reason for it.
Ah, okay. So I will be in Tampa here in just another few days. So I'll be down there next Tuesday afternoon. That'll be interesting. First time I've ever been to the Tampa RV Super Show or the Florida RV Super Show, whatever the heck they call it.
And I will be with all the cool people in Quartzsite.
In Quartzsite, you'll be out in Quartzsite. So we're splitting up the country. We've divvied the country in half, as it were.
Right. I'll take the left side. You take
You
the
take the
right
left side, I
side.
take the right side. That's how it works. You see, I started my lava lamp up in plenty of time back here, so it's cooking.
Oh,
I've got my
good
Edison
deal.
lamp running back here, so that's cooking. Everybody
Well,
be
you
cooking.
can't see them, but our Albuquerque Balloon Fiesta Bear Patrol has been behind me.
Oh, cool. So if any of you guys are on, you can go ahead and send us a little message and I'll queue it up and just make sure, because you can text into us your questions. We might as well try that now if you're available.
Oh,
Richard
yeah.
just says, just checking to see if the chat is working. I like that. Yes,
Is
the
it?
chat is working. Yes, it. As soon as I said it, man, bang, there it is. And there's a way to make this. Let me see if I can figure this out. Oh, yeah, there is. So what I can do on my stream of my chat, I can hit stars next to things that then I can just find the favorite ones later. This is kind of like in parochial school when you get the little angel smiley face next to your paper, your grade. I would get the little sad one that says, you can do better. Okay, Scoff 1945 says, hello from KCMO. Whatever KCMO is. What's KCMO?
Kansas City, Missouri.
Kansas City, Missouri. Oh, I'm an idiot.
I wonder what the weather's like there. I think it snowed pretty good.
Here we've got Waldorf, Maryland. And when they come in from Facebook, I don't see who they are. So if you're doing it from Facebook, if you put your name and say, hey, this is Rudolph or whatever, it doesn't carry through the names. But this is a Facebook.
There's a way on the tool we're using on Ecamm to go in and authorize Ecamm to use your permissions or whatnot, and then it will show your username.
It will pass the names through. More to learn. More to learn. Well, we've got about 2 minutes here. Or about 1 minute. And then Tony, better get your makeup person out of the room.
Oh.
Tony's having his head dusted.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, Stuart from
I'm
Waldorf.
getting my beard. I'm getting the fleas.
Get the fleas out.
Fumigated from my beard.
So Stuart from Waldorf, Maryland, new camp tab 320. We are waiting for an ice storm overnight tonight. Oh, baby.
Oh. Well, then I probably should just shut my app, although I can't. But we're at the present time on our way to Quartzsite, and we're in Long Beach, California, and I am wearing short pants.
Okay, so luckily you're on screen now, Tony. Do you see? They're there.
I see there's a bear.
There is a bear
shoulder.
back there.
Where is he? It's backwards, so it's kind of funny. That is one of our Albuquerque Balloon Fiesta
Well, everybody,
taggers
welcome
along
here.
ours.
We're right on time. So I'm Mike Sokol from RV Electricity. Let me see here. Wait a minute. Tony Barthel. Okay, well, all of our names are goofed up. Okay, everybody knows who you are. I'm going to try something here. Face cam. That's not going to work. Okay, I'm sorry. Okay, so Tony's on the left. I'm on the right. What the heck?
Yeah, unless you have your computer upside down.
Yeah, and then it's backwards. Okay, so what we're going to do here, I prepared just a couple of slides. We want to know what you want to know. And in fact, I know that we've got a number of campground owners and builders that are watching this, and they promise to keep their mouths shut. All they want to know is what you want to know. The other thing is I do some consulting for the guys that do National Electrical Code, and we're talking about what needs to happen for campgrounds for power. So we want to know what you want to know. As long as you're respectful, you can say anything, ask anything, whatever you like here. But we would really like to know your opinions on this. So I'm going to go ahead and pull up my PowerPoint presentation here. And then what we're going to do is just kind of go through some of the highlights that we know of, and then we'll open this up to general discussion. Or if you just want to click in a question while we're doing this, I'll notate it and then come back to it. Okay, so here we go. Whoops. There we go. Okay, so you should be able to you see that okay, Tony, everybody?
Well, I don't. I'm in the interest
Oh, you
of
can't see it
being
in yours.
vain.
Everybody should see it okay.
Yeah, yeah. I
Okay.
have no glasses on,
You
so
got no glasses. Okay. So here's what started this. I took a poll last month, and I asked a basic simple question: should campgrounds charge for electricity? And I do a lot of power stuff, and I know that RVs are getting more and more juice, need more and more power. And what happens is, of course, is people are demanding more and more, and campgrounds don't want to do it sometimes. So basically, should campgrounds charge for electricity? And out of my 1,219 people that answered the poll, out of my 10,000 that read my articles every day, 30% said no, it's already built in. And you know the deal here. You go to the campground, you pay your X bucks a night. How much are you paying a night right now in California, Tony? That's where you are, right?
yeah, it's pricey here. Has been like $80 a night, I think.
Okay.
I'm gonna ask my adult supervisor here. Hey, Peggy, how much was tonight?
I think you're right, but
Yeah, I think it's about $80 a night.
Okay. And so it's already built in. And I know what the general feeling is going to be. No, it's already built into the price of that. I want to use as much electricity as I want to use. I'm paying $80 a night. That's 30% saying that. Now, 11% out of them said yes, everybody should charge for electricity, which I was pretty surprised at. And 33%, one third said yes if they reduce their rates. So the idea, Tony? We'll talk about this later as we get into this. The big question is, okay, so let's say they're going to say, okay, I'm going to charge you instead of $80 a night, I'm going to charge you $60 a night. And if you use a whole lot of power, that's going to come back as $20 or $25 or whatever. Let's say you're charging your EV or your Toad or whatever you've got. Or if you've got solar and your own, source of, propane or whatever, you could say, I'm not using any. And they could say, okay, now it's going to be $60. You'd save $20 a night. That would be that premise, right? And then 26%, about one quarter of them said yes, but just for extended stays. So only if you have extended stays, right? Now, let's look at our next one here. So I came up with a few just basic discussion points. We'll go through these, and again, we're going to start asking everybody. Okay, so here's the issues. Campgrounds need to provide a lot more power than they were originally designed to do. And that's a fact. I mean, when I was camping in the 60s, we had no electric power. The only thing that was electric in my Cox pop-up camper that my parents were driving around was the batteries in our AM radio. That was it. Now, gosh, 1, 2, sometimes 3 air conditioners, full-size residential refrigerators, electric water heaters. I've got people that want to put in on-demand electric water heaters.
Yeah.
Well, wow, man, this is a lot of juice. So they need a lot more power. Now, short-term campgrounds usually charge a flat rate, like your $80 a night. But there's no incentive for you to use less electricity, right? You're not
That's
incentivized.
correct.
You use as much as you want. Who cares? Blah. Now, many long-term campgrounds meter power. And yeah, I've seen that in a lot of places, and they'll come back once a month or whatever, and then you get your $100 and some odd dollar bill for the month or whatever. So there is some incentive, but you don't see it till the end of the month. So what happens is campers, many of them use as much power as they can get. Electric heat, water, refrigerator. I've gone by and seen them with a couple of air conditioners on the roof running, and they've got the windows wide open. It's that kind of a thing, and they're gone for the day. And so they're using more power than the RVs that have solar and propane systems and use much less electricity. But there's nothing to make you want to do that. Now, it is true that it would be tricky for people to come around and read the meter, but there's a number of systems out there. In fact, I've got some guys that are talking to me about this that have built-in watt-hour metering. They can be added to existing pedestals. And so it will add to the campsite bill upon checkout. Now, but a few of my readers have said that, yeah, but then they'll have to have my credit card number or whatever. And, what if they charge me too much and I'm already 500 miles away? And that's an issue. But, somebody needs to pay for it all is the problem. Now, let's see. Richard said, what? Add EV charging. Hey, man, we're coming to that right in a second. Okay, how to make this all work? Should all campsite pedestals be metered? Right? Should they be? Will the campgrounds reduce the overnight rate and add your kilowatt usage back into the bill? Another one is, will campgrounds mark up their kilowatt electricity cost to their customers? That's you. If they're paying 10 cents a kilowatt hour, are they going to charge you 20? A lot of people want to know, will this provide better and more stable power? And what about, Richard, what about EV and EV trailer charging? And that can add up to 100 kilowatt hours to a campsite per night. And that's going to add $10 to $20 more cost per EV easily. Okay, so there's my base questions. Let's discuss. So let me just get back to...
And something that I found interesting, for some of you who don't know, I used to live in California. I used to live in Southern California and then Northern California, and we escaped and now live in New Mexico. And coming back here, right now we are visiting old friends in California on our way to Quartzsite. We went backwards. And the cost of electricity is so high here that some of our friends have gotten second jobs just to pay their electric bills.
Now, here's an interesting thing from Terry, who says, I don't mind paying my fair share, provided the rate is reduced. What concerns me is that they might charge much more than the local electric rate. I'm not sure what on place means. Oh, on place at what? Oh, so one place, he says, one place added a $14 service charge to the monthly bill.
Wow.
Okay, so here's what I know. Here's the theory. Because, again, I've talked to a number of people that are trying to figure this out. And they call me up and say, what do you think, Mike? And I'm going, it's like big can of worms. So here's the deal. It is illegal for a campground to mark up the price of electricity to you across all states. Illegal. Now, it doesn't mean that they don't, it does not mean that they do not do it. Some of them actually do it. However, you can charge a service charge on top of that. So you could say, I'm going to charge you, Tony, 10 cents per kilowatt hour plus $10 hookup fee, a flat hookup fee. And this is what some of them are starting to do because they can't figure out how to, to mark up stuff for EV charging. EV charging is tremendously hard on electrical systems because it's basically full tilt boogie power continuous for 10 hours.
And the campgrounds are very concerned about this with the proliferation of EVs in some places. I mean, if you have electric pickup, whatever it is, or electric tow vehicle, you're going to go to a campground that's pretty close to the limit of the range.
Yeah, you're going to be out of juice by the time you pull up.
You're going to be like, yeah, plug me in, baby.
Right. And the real issue, of course, with that is that, what I've seen them do is they'll plug their Tesla or whatever into the 50 amp service, the 50 amp 240 volt service, which will pull somewhere around 40-ish amps because they limit it to 80% because it's a continuous power draw over 4 hours. And then what they do is they plug their camper into the 30 amp one. So they're drawing from the 30 plus the 50. Now, I saw a manufacturer, somebody sent me a link a while ago, but I lost it. And it looked like a little door that would flip. It would either flip between, you could plug into the 30 or you could plug into the 50, but you could not plug into both. And that's how they were managing that. And that's one way. I mean, thoughts? What do you think?
I've seen it where people with a diesel pusher, whatever, are towing a Tesla as they're
Right.
towed, and I've seen where they've actually pulled that car into another campsite and charged it while their diesel pusher was, well, let's say Class A. It wasn't always while their
a big old coach
was
thing
at whatever site they paid for, and typically I've seen this done after hours. So,
Ooh.
and if
Were
you're
they paying for that second site?
well, I wasn't going to go and be that guy and ask him, although I was obviously that guy who was curious. But I know, for example, our friends in Northern California, they're paying 40 cents a kilowatt hour for power or more.
Yeah.
And so, that makes a difference.
So here's the thing. When you go take your car, you take your vehicle, and you go to a fast charger, any fast charger, if you've got an EV, you're paying like 40 cents per kilowatt hour or so to charge just for the convenience of charging it in an hour. If I bring it here to Little Maryland and plug it in, I think our base rate's somewhere listed a little over 10 cents per kilowatt hour, but by the time it's all done, it's 14 cents per kilowatt hour. So I can basically do the same charge up. Then let's just do 100 kilowatt hour battery. So it could cost you $40 to charge it up in a fast charger. And people do it because you can charge it up in an hour or so, right? I bring it home. It costs me $14 or $15 to do it 10 hours overnight. Okay. Now, if I go to Maryland now as part of First Energy / Potomac Edison, if you let them put in a second smart meter, what they'll do is they'll reduce the cost to charge your vehicle by 50% if you do it from I think it's 9 p.m. to 9 a.m., which would be easily done because you could just tell it to do it. So what that means, instead of paying, $15 to fill this thing up, maybe I'm filling it up, maybe I'm costing $8. $8 to fill up a tank that you can go 300 miles on or 250 miles on is a good deal. To go $40, it's more like a car that's sucking gas.
Yeah, I mean it makes a difference. And I know when we first moved to New Mexico, I was shocked, pun intended, that our electric rate was 4 cents a kilowatt hour. 4 cents.
In Russia, it was like 2 cents a kilowatt hour. It's really cheap in Russia, I saw last year. Just saying.
I know, but it's
okay. So Snoopy,
but anyway, so that could make a big difference to a campground. I mean, it could represent a big percentage of what they take in, especially if you're running space heaters and all this other stuff in there. And I mean, let's be honest, every RVer, if you have the gas electric water heater, you're not going to plug into a campground and then run it on propane. You're using
Right.
electric.
Right. Okay, so Snoopy asked a good question here. Hi, Mike and Tony. He spelled you Tony with an I.
I
That's
know. No,
that's
I'm a
very,
dude. That's
very
the
sexy.
girly way to.
Yes. Say, Mike, what are the electric charges your friends are paying in California? I live in the LADWP, whatever
Oh,
the heck that is. What is that, Tony?
yeah.
And pay about
Los
25 cents
Angeles
per
Department of
kilowatt
Water
hour.
and Power.
Got it.
Yeah.
And that's with all the BS added. I like it. Good man.
That's that's not that bad, actually. And LADWP is a pretty good power agency. It's a I guess a function of the city of Los Angeles.
Okay.
But yeah, 25 cents isn't bad. As I said, in Northern California, where I moved from, when I left, which was a year and a half ago, it was 40 cents a kilowatt hour during the prime rates. It
Okay.
was crazy.
So campgrounds have got to mark that up some and or do something with it. And so here's the point. Everybody says, well, they're going to mark it up and charge us more, but somebody's got to pay for the pedestals and the underground wiring and the upgrades and a bunch of other ones. So how do we do that? I've got another question in here from Richard. The two major electric companies in Kansas City, Mo, already implementing time sensitive rates, peak times, higher rates. Yeah, now here's another thing that's really, really interesting. Campgrounds pay more for peak rates because they got to put bigger transformers
Yep.
in. Some campgrounds are adding generators
Thank
in
you.
and running the generators in the middle of the afternoon when it's real hot so that they don't go over their peak power limit, and then they have to pay for all of it at that higher rate for the rest of the month. And
Yeah,
this is why some of them are adding solar and generators. It's not because they're trying to be clean, it's because they're trying to pay less money. And one of them, they swore it's cost them less to put the generators in and run the diesel for those 4 or 5 hours in the afternoon when the sun is out, rather than paying this huge surcharge.
yeah, and that makes perfect sense because the time of day metering is becoming more and more common, and it's easy for some power companies the way it was in Northern California. They didn't even have meter readers anymore. It was all done automatically through, I think, some form of mesh network.
Right,
So
right.
time of day metering is easier and easier for them to do and makes sense, right? I mean, middle of the day, the power companies are doing everything they can to. I mean, they've got squirrels running those cages pretty hard,
They
and
do, they
middle
do.
of the night, there's not much demand. So
Well, and right, except that's where, if it's done correctly, this is when you are charging up your EVs in the middle of the night, not all day. Most EVs
right,
off of a class 2 charger will completely recharge in around 10 hours or so.
and
So
most of them have the provision to you can tell it don't
you can tell
start
them,
charging until certain time of day or night, whatever.
yeah. Yeah, I've seen them that, and you just tell them you want to leave at 9 in the morning and you need to have so much charge, and then they figure it out and then they dumb it down. It's pretty easy to do that sort of thing.
Well, and the
So
heater is running, so or air conditioner. So you get in at 9 o'clock in the morning, seats are heated, air conditioner's running. You're ready to go.
oh no, it's pretty slick. Yeah, and some of the newest ones, I know Teslas and a few of the other ones, they've got heat pumps rather than electric heat in the cars now, electric vehicles. So
Yeah,
it can save
yeah,
you at least half of your electric. I know in a residential heat pump can save you. It's about almost 400% efficient many times. So it'll be 4 times less electricity than an electric resistive heating. I've never tested it on a vehicle, so I don't know.
and that is something we can save for later. I have in my notes, but some new RVs are using more power, but some of them, with the proliferation of boondocking, off-grid camping, solar, and good battery reserves, are using a lot less.
Right, right.
So,
Oh yeah.
like
So
this this rig that we're in, I don't know if now's the time to share this or not, but
sure, go ahead.
So the rig that we're in, I have 1,000 watts of solar on the roof and a 400 amp hour lithium battery. And for the past, we have been off grid camping most of this time in California because $80 a night.
Right.
And we've had zero issues, with by middle of the day, we're back at 100% state of charge. So if I had the option at a campground of, they say, well, we have this 30 amp or 50 amp, or you could just not plug in and save $20. I'd do the $20 thing or whatever.
Okay. I think that's reasonable. Now let's
And
segue back into our camping thing now. So do we think? I mean, first off, I really don't trust guys just walking around reading meters that much. But a number of these companies have got Bluetooth gadgets that they add onto the meters, right? And they just walk around with, and as you drive around, it just grabs the meter reading on everything that they go by and just loads it in. It says campsite number 17, use so many kilowatts, blah, 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 blah. Would you guys, the readers, watchers, would you trust the campground then to just back bill you once you leave once a day? How do you fight that? I know that. I first I thought, oh, sure, that's easy. And then, I've been in places, I'm 1,000 miles away the next day. Now, you guys don't drive like I do, but let's say you're 300 or 400 miles away. How do you fight that?
yeah, I mean, I guess the way I would do it, I would I assume, of course, if it's a metered campsite, you're going to have a meter there and it's going to have a
Right.
dial on it. You get there, you take a picture of the dial when you arrive, and then you take a picture of the dial when you leave. And of course, that's time stamped. And that would be one way to combat it. The way I talked to a few campgrounds, the way one of them does this, but this is for their full timers. They do walk around and get the meter reading, and and I have to sneeze, don't it? And they submit that to the power company, and the power company submits the bill. But this is for long-term residents. Obviously, you
Right.
can't do that, uh, or maybe you can. I mean, you do it like those stupid toll uh, those toll freeways where you get a bill 2 months later.
Well, what we do is you do an escrow thing. So, they charge you $25. It loads up the account and then it debits it off. Oh, wait a minute. I just figured out why you were called Tony with an I. Sorry, Tony. My wife is Toni. There you go. Okay, that explains it. He's confusing you with his wife. What can I say? I was surprised about Tony saying that 25 cents per kilowatt hour was reasonable. Actually, I stopped complaining. Now, one thing that I have found out, because I do a lot of testing on surge protectors, the ones from from Southwire, they're surge guard units, and the ones from, I think you've got the ones from Power
We have
Watchdog
the
stuff from
Power
Hughes.
Watchdogs.
Right. And they've got a really, really good built-in kilowatt hour usage thingy. So that
Yeah,
would be one way to double check, right?
you could use that as well. Take a screenshot maybe and see
I
what your
yeah,
consumption is.
yeah, and you screen, and you're right. The nice thing about screenshots is they put geosynchronous data on them, so they know where you are. Okay, so Terry's
Yep.
also offered another thing. Current winter rate 700 kilowatt hours is 10 cents in series. Just check my bill. Okay. Scott says running a small local diesel generator to avoid peak rates makes financial sense for the customer. It does. I mean, I never thought about it until these guys said that, and I said, "Really?" So you could, so yeah, it's quite substantial. When you go over those peak rates.
Yeah, I mean it's and you can write the diesel generator off and the fuel and all of that
Yeah.
stuff. So
So Steve says, when I had a seasonal, I would take a pic every time I left to be sure no one was tapping my power bowl.
yeah,
And it's true. It's like stealing gasoline. Yeah.
it is. It technically is. So
Okay, so Scuff, 1945. Has got to be adding more to global warming compared to commercial electric suppliers with their economies of scale and their transition to green generating technologies. And this is true. This is a tricky thing. One of the things that I'm really, really fascinated with, and people are going to just be coming at me with pitchforks and torches, is I think that there's a place for what they call these small modular nuclear power plants, and they're like 50 megawatts or something. You only refuel them every 10 or 20 years, and you basically they build them in a plant, and they're going to deliver them on a couple of flatbed trucks and put them in a ground in a place, and then you just turn them on. And so let's say that you wanted to be able to charge up EVs. You wanted to have a spot out in the desert rather than running hundreds of miles of electric wire where you lose power. You drop in one of these small modular power plants. And I'm saying this as a child of 3 Mile Island. Okay, I lived less than like 50 miles away from 3 Mile Island, and I remember when that was going off. We were passing out iodine pills.
Oh boy.
But I'm saying is all cards are on the table. All possibilities are out there. But yeah, you don't want to just be doing this just to be doing this. Although, like I said, it does seem, for instance, heat pumps are way more efficient than any resistive heating. The real problem, as you know, Tony, because you do a lot of RV build stuff, you don't have really enough insulation. There's air running around underneath of them.
Yeah, I mean it's how do you insulate something and make it light enough to be able to be towed
and have room inside. I mean,
Yeah.
I've been in commercial refrigerators, and the walls are a foot thick worth of foam. You can't do that
Yeah.
in an RV.
No, and then big loss is the windows on a lot of them. I mean, the dual pane windows are becoming more common, but it's typically it's a sheet of glass, and it's there's your loss right there. You
There's
forget
there's
the
a
walls,
tremendous
it's
amount
the
of losses,
windows.
right? Tremendous amount of losses. So somebody's got to make up for this. Now, going back to our campground thing, would it make sense? Would it help people if we were to reward them for using less electricity, either in improving the insulating on their RVs? And some people have like those little aluminum bubbly
Oh,
foam things that
reflectix? Yeah.
they put inside of their windows. Or I've seen ones where I've never played with one, but it's looks like a air bladder that you blow around the side of your RV. Maybe
Oh, yeah, the air skirts.
the air skirts, yeah, that look
Yeah,
really
and
cool.
then
Now
you
it would
could
be tough if you were doing
put
them
them
every
in
day, but
stick them in these vents too. Wait,
yeah,
where
they've
is
got
it?
ones that
It's
they can
somewhere back there.
right somewhere back there. So those are possibilities. But the real question is, if you let's say that you could reduce the rate of electricity. Let's say you just cut your average cost of your campsite by $10 or whatever that may be, and then you can say we're going to meter all of this. Now, again, it's going to cost them some money to go and set this up so that they can electronically meter it. But let's just take that equation off the table. Let's say that they did that. Would you guys, you readers, you guys watching, would you be willing to then pay if you go over that average kilowatt hour usage? You might, let's say in Tony's situation, you'd pay more than 80. Some of you may pay 90, some of you may pay 70, some of you may pay 60. Tony, you could probably pay 60 because how much electricity do you really need?
Right. Well, I mean, that's the other thing. If you to get around these laws of you can't charge per kilowatt hour, right? You can't mark up. You
Right.
could you could have a penalty for going over a certain amount of consumption.
So somebody's got to pay.
So,
I know a couple of years ago, I had a campground. They weren't really a huge campground. I mean, it was 150 sites or something like that. And they were reviewing with me what it was going to cost to upgrade the electric system. It had last been put in the 60s, so it was horrible. And I think they were up to like $450,000 for the
Yeah,
upgrade, and that's
I
with
mean,
a lot of labor. That was a lot of free labor to dig ditches.
mm,
I mean, we're
yeah,
talking
it's
massive amounts of of power of cost to do this.
well, and here's another thing. One of the campgrounds I talked to is a built from scratch new campground, and just the electrical permits to put in the pedestals was a nightmare because a lot of localities, cities, counties, whatever, aren't used to what it takes to put in power at a campground. And so they actually had to help educate their, I don't remember if it was the city or county, but they had to help educate their locality, their government on campground power anyway. So what
Right,
if you're like, oh, I want to upgrade all of our pedestals, and then you spend 3 years, as these people did, futzing around with the local government to get the permits alone for this thing. If they
yeah,
even maybe they go, no, you can't change it, or so that's another variable. It's
right.
campground ownership is not easy.
No, 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 no. So Richard also asked this. I can see he's a little paranoid. He would only do it only if there's some way to keep others from siphoning power off of my pedestal. Looks like a man who's actually had power, somebody hook into his stuff. And look at it this way. You can bind it. You can put a Bluetooth connection and you can say you are a camper no blah blah blah, and your phone is going to bind to that thing, and it's only going to turn the power on. It's going to report to your phone or your RV's Bluetooth management system or whatever. I think there's a way to do that. But this is part of the problem. We do not have a smart power grid here in the United States or smart campground
No,
power. I mean, we're
I could
basically
just see.
125 years old.
Yeah, I could just see. Middle of the night, you've got someone with a ski mask and alligator clamps coming for your power.
Yeah, that's right, man. Well, when the price of diesel was up and everything, these poor truckers, because you have 100+ gallon tanks, 300 gallons of diesel on a truck easily, and guys were pulling up next to them and just siphoning, 100 gallons off at a time.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, it happened to us in Colorado. We were visiting over Thanksgiving, and someone opened our gas store. We had just filled up at a hotel. We were actually in a hotel,
Wow.
and someone opened our gas door, and the way I found out is our check engine light came on. I'm like, shoot, the gas door is open. So,
Yeah. Oh,
you know,
Scoff 1945 has an interesting idea. I had not thought of this. I have stayed in campgrounds that charge a surcharge to run air conditioners, so much per unit. Oh, could
hmm.
that be a model for moving forward? I had not thought of that, but one, two, or three. That's Scoff. What was it? $5, $10? How much they charge extra? Do you know? Can you answer back if you get a chance? But that's an
And
interesting thing, isn't it?
and here's another interesting thing. As you know, we had talked about more RVers are getting better solar lithium, power systems. I've also seen two companies with remarkably better, more efficient air conditioners.
Right.
So, there's the incentive, to have maybe with this charged power, there will be greater incentive by the RV manufacturers to have more efficient systems because right now there is very little incentive.
Very little incentive, yeah. And I've actually done some testing in the lab, in my little Funkworks lab on air conditioners from
I
manufacturers. I
know.
can't go into the fine details because I'm under NDA, but they use 30 or 40% less power than the old bangers out there. Um, I'm
And
pretty, it's pretty darn impressive. It really is.
it's and they're very quiet
Super,
too.
super
The one,
quiet. Right. Super quiet. So there's, again, people will do stuff if you incentivize it. If you
yeah,
don't, they're
yeah.
not
If
going to.
there's a reason,
If there's
right?
a
Because
reason.
there's been no real reason to make RV air conditioners more efficient,
No,
right? It's like plug into 30 amp, use 30 amp, and you're good. But
one of the things that I blame this extra usage on are these, in fact, these smart surge protectors, because they tell you exactly how much amperage you're using. And you know, if they want to get it up to 29.99 amps on this thing. Before, it
Oh
would just get to the
yeah.
point and it would trip. Now you're like, how close can I get to that? Honey, turn on another light. It's crazy. Okay, so I've just got
Well, I
another.
mean,
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
at this time of year, so much discussion on the various RV Facebook groups is about the use of electric space heaters
Oh yeah,
because
yeah, yeah,
I
yeah, yeah.
paid for the power. If you ever want to scare yourself, look at how those outlets in your RV are wired, and you may not
Oh
want to run a
baby.
space heater after all.
Yeah. So let's say Stephen or Stephen. Many of the pedestals I've seen have the capability to put a lock on it. And that's another way you could do it. You could put a lock on it and give the guy the key. And you could lock the thing out. That's another way to do it.
Yeah.
Scoff just said in Connecticut in 2012. Okay, he's talking about it was something or other if I declared it at check-in. So this had to do with air conditioner check-in. So I'm not sure. Maybe it was $1 if check-in. $5 if the owner caught me cheating. So
Hmm.
yeah, that says, okay,
I
there it is. He
I
said
see
$3
you.
if declared. $3 if you declare that you've got two air conditioners. You know, $3 a piece, I'm guessing. But if you didn't,
I
it's
s-
$5.
I see you in there all comfortable and cool.
That's
Five
right.
bucks,
You're
buddy.
not sweating. You're not sweating nearly enough.
You're not sweating. I'll make you
God.
sweat.
Yeah, some of this stuff is like what seventh ring of hell from Dante. I mean,
Yeah.
these things get really, really hot.
And can you imagine an RV park owner who's like telling some, high school temp summer worker, go around, if you hear air conditioners, check the list and see. And this poor little, high schooler's like, sir, I think you're running your air conditioner. Guy comes out with icicles. He's like, no, I'm not.
No, I'm not. Yeah, that's right. All bundled up. Well, and again, we're learning some stuff now. What other options do we have for campgrounds? I mean, campgrounds are in the business to make money. I mean, this is just pure and simple. They're not there just to be your friend. And what you want them to do is make a reasonable profit, because if they don't, then they will go away and then you got no place to camp. That's just how that works. However, the prices of these places now, you'll like this. I'm going to go down to Tampa. I'm not camping on my way down. I'm just going to stop down in South Carolina on my way down. I found a Howard Johnson's hotel. I didn't even know Hojo was still in business.
Wow.
60 bucks a night for the room. But I read the reviews. It was
Ooh.
like 3.5 out of 10. Um, and there were like a whole bunch of really bad things that must happen there, kind of a thing. But
Yeah.
I didn't even know that Hojo's was still in existence.
Yeah. Well, it is Florida. Things happen in the past there.
Well,
So,
this was in South Carolina, so I'm
oh,
halfway down, because
oh,
yeah, I'm basically halfway. Once I get to the south of the border, Big Sombrero, that's my halfway point to Florida from Maryland, which is
yeah.
like the silliest, craziest place I like going there at night just because I like to see the absolute insanity of south of the border. Good golly.
I when I went to Indiana for open house, I stayed in some of those $60 a night places, and I was very glad I had not brought a black light with me. That's all I'm
You
saying.
don't want to know. You don't know. And a couple of times, I've had to kick the drunks out of the hallway, and then I sleep on top of the covers in my clothes
Yeah.
with my shoes on.
There was at one of the places there was some dude who was angry that I wouldn't give him money and knocked on my door every hour, and apparently did that to the next door, the guy in the room next door, who at about 3 in the morning literally punched him out.
Oh
So that
my!
was entertaining.
Dinner and a
Yeah,
show, and a
right.
show.
Yeah,
I
who
love
was
it. Good heavens!
Motel
Oh,
6?
Motel 6. Hey, what else can we do? What else can we do for campgrounds and for campers? Because I mean, everybody's always asked me whose side I am. Whose side am I on? And I always say I'm on the side of science. I just am. I do the
Yeah.
numbers.
I
And
mean
so
the
again, everybody's got to make a profit, but you don't want to be gouged. What other
right.
possibilities do we have? Is it fair just to let everybody just take as much power as they want? And some use more and some use none. Is that fair?
Well, perhaps an incentive, like you have a flat rate of, our campsites rather are $85, but if you use less than, set a
So if you
number,
use less than that, your rate will go down.
$65.
Your rate will go
Yeah,
down.
so
So that
maybe
would be
it's
one
like,
way to keep it at a rate, but then meter it and then give you money back if you use
yeah, or,
less.
or, or charge less. Gamification. Some people will be like, I don't care, I'm going to use all the power I want. And other people are like, what do I have to do to cut back on my juice? So,
Right, right. And
and
yeah, I've done so much business travel. I don't even look at the price of gasoline or diesel. I don't even look at the price of rooms. I mean, I've just got to go. I mean, there's just when I'm in business travel mode, it's just
right,
expensive, no
right.
matter what you do. And when you
But
go to a convention, you're paying $15 for a soggy hot dog. I mean, it's just
yeah,
stupid. It's just what it is. But there's unavoidable when I'm at a convention.
but I think,
But when you're doing what
yeah,
you're doing, money it counts.
RVers, I think, are more, there's probably a lot less traveling somewhere for a worky thing. Like, hotels, a lot of times, sure, there's a convention or meetings or whatnot, and their weekday business is a lot of business travelers. And then some hotels have almost no weekend business. Well, RVers are probably all recreational or predominantly recreational. And so it's a different attitude.
Right.
And RVers are cheap.
Oh man, the stuff that I have seen it's just crazy, and these are the guys that are driving $500,000 motorhomes, the big coaches, the big diesel pushers, and they're the worst.
Yeah.
And they say I don't have any
Oh,
money
yeah.
left over. I just paid $500,000 for
Yeah.
this thing, and I go,
Yeah.
okay.
My Newell coach was 2.2 million bucks. I don't have power money left.
That's right. Nothing left. I like it where they've got what is it? Some kind of a sports car, forget a Porsche or whatever, that actually just slid in under the belly
Oh,
pan.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it just,
that was in Germany.
yeah.
They
We all
showed
need
that
one of
at
those.
Caravan Salon.
You
Yeah,
don't
that
have
would
that
be,
on
I
this
mean,
trip, do you, Tony? You don't have your big
no,
Prevost?
I was precluded from buying a fast car by getting a ticket before I even bought my house in New Mexico.
Ah, very
So
good.
In a
that,
pickup.
yeah, in a pickup, my wife automatically nixed the Porsche. So,
Oh man.
yeah,
Yeah.
but it
Well,
was
and
going
so,
to be a Taycan, so it'd be an electric car. So, see, I'd be doing good while
while you were
enjoying a
going
car that,
fast, you're
yeah,
doing it
right.
quickly.
Yeah.
Okay. What else can we do? What else? What other things do we have to think about that could, in fact, help this whole issue of better power? Because so this is another one that people have asked. They said if I could get stable power all the time, I'd be willing to pay more. And so I see this at a lot of state campgrounds. So what they'll do is, they'll have, 100 sites out there or whatever, and they decide they want to add 50 more. They'll just take a bulldozer, run another road around, tap onto the last pedestal, and just run more power around. And I've seen
Oh,
them get
yeah.
powers drop down to like 95 volts in the afternoon. And
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the benefits of having the Power Watchdog is, some hot summer days you're at a campground and you're watching it. Oh, that's going to shut off any minute now. Click. Yep, there it went.
now,
And then
it
everyone else is sad, and I'm using my battery to just, oh well, I don't care. I'll just run
the
off battery
interesting
power.
thing about, and I think you've got the hybrid inverter in your trailer, right? Yeah. See what
Mm-hmm.
I've got a hybrid inverter in mine. So basically, what it does is I can say I'm going to take a maximum of 10 or 15 or 20 amps or whatever for my 30 amp thing, and then when it needs more than that, the battery and an inverter makes it up and adds it on. When you're using less than that, it recharges your battery automatically. It's great for
Yep.
mooch docking. And this would also be
Yeah.
good for places that have, limited power. Now, I did do a study last year on the, excuse me, the Hughes autoformers. They are now allowed back into campgrounds. They had kicked them out
Mm.
as of the 2020 code. I did a
Mm.
study on that, and I presented to NEC, and guess what? Now they are allowed back in. They really don't steal juice from the other ones. What they do is they lessen the amount of current that you have available in your own RV by boosting the voltage up.
Hmm. Interesting.
So
Well,
let's
and
see.
the other, I think
Oh,
one of
oh,
the
hold
other
on. We have
things.
another one from
Oh, all
Snoopy.
right.
If all have meter, I will assume the campground owns them. They can't charge more than the going rate. Wondering if the dishonest groundskeeper can adjust the meter to his advantage, like recalibrate it. That would be really hard to do. So what he's
Yeah.
suggesting is they could like lean on the scale when they're
Put
doing
their
this,
thumb on it.
put the thumb on the scale, right? That kind of thing.
Yeah.
It would
I
be
think,
very, very difficult to do with those meters. They've got
yeah, and I would,
calibration stuff in them. These are all electronic. Man, I don't know. It's just like changing the speedometer in your car now.
well, I would imagine, like the almost every gas pump you go to, there's a sticker from your locale or local weights and measures. I
Right.
would imagine if you're reselling power, they're probably some equivalent to that.
It was. I know that that
So,
would be when these guys would come through. When I was a pump jockey when I was like 15 years old, and these guys would come through every couple of months and check all of these things and put their little stampy things on them and everything. And they told me that it was a federal crime
yeah, it's
to mess
you
with
do not
that.
want to get
So don't be
caught.
thinking about because I'm sitting there watching them going, oh, that's how you adjust that. And he goes, you don't want to even think about it.
Yeah, that's a big no-no.
It's a big
So
no
I
no.
think one of the things that is scaring some of these campgrounds is the new we've talked about EVs, about towing vehicles, but what we haven't considered is the new EV trailers, and
Right.
two of them I
Self-propelled
think
trailers.
are, yeah, very promising uh, options from both Pebble and Lightship,
Right.
and both of those have big, I think it's 92 kilowatt hour batteries or something. They're
Yeah.
big batteries in them,
Big batteries. They're
and
equivalent of a
that's,
vehicle. So here's the
yeah,
deal for you guys that haven't seen this yet. If you take a standard EV truck like an F-150 Lightning that might have a 300-mile range, you put a trailer behind it, a big boxy thing, your mileage is going to drop to 100 miles. You're going to lose 2/3 of your mileage, like right off the get-go. So if you've got to go 100 miles and then charge up for an overnight, it's not going to be a big camping trip. So a number of manufacturers, Airstream did it, Lippert did it with their Edison, and a couple of them that you're talking about. What they do is they're motor generators in the wheels of the trailer and another 100 amp hour or so battery in the trailer. So the trailer actually pushes itself down the road. So that in combination with better aerodynamics, which is another thing that RV manufacturers have got no incentive to change, right? You
right.
can then get your range back. So now you can pull in, you can get your 300-mile range back. But now guess what you've got to charge up? You've got two batteries to charge up when you pull into the campground. You got to charge up your EV battery, your truck. You've got to charge up your camper battery. And then you also need to be running enough power to do your air conditioner or heaters or whatever in your camper, those things.
Yeah, it's a big load. Now, if you're not towing with an EV, if you're just whatever truck, um, your gas or diesel powered truck, one of the neat things about these trailers is you have, if it gets 20 miles to a gallon regularly, you're going to get 20 miles to a gallon with one of these trailers.
Right.
And the trailers that I've seen, the Pebble and the Lightship, are about $130,000. So about the price of an Airstream. So not
Not
extraordinarily
insane. Yeah.
expensive if you look at it that way. I don't know if I'd be buying $130,000 trailer, but it does reduce the inefficiencies of towing. Well, it
It does.
transfers the
It
inefficiencies of towing.
transfers it. Well, one of the other things that they can do with these, which I think is fascinating, is it becomes basically like a diesel exhaust brake.
Yeah,
Because when you're going down a hill, guess what? It knows this and it turns those motors into generators and it refills your batteries back in your
yeah,
trailer when you're going down a hill rather than just burning it up in heat.
right. And most of them have pretty significant solar arrays as well. So there's some gain from there. And you're right, the engine braking or the dynamic braking, all that stuff.
Electron
So
braking.
yeah, electron braking.
Yeah, it's cool.
I'm kind of curious about these, and they also, both of them, the Lightship and the Pebble, have far better air conditioners that are not, plopped on the roof of these darn
Yeah,
things.
they just hang every doodad on them. They do. Now, we've got one
Yeah.
here from Caitlin's asked a question. Caitlin, can campgrounds charge more than average per kilowatt? We are currently paying 23 cents per kilowatt in Alabama, and that seems excessive to us. They're not supposed to. From what I can see, I don't know what the normal rate is in Alabama. So what I'll do for you, I do have a chart, which I'll post here maybe tomorrow or the next day on my Substack. You guys, just go back to my, rvelectricity.substack.com, and it shows the electric rate per kilowatt hour of 2023 and 2024 of all 50 states. It's fascinating. And you can just roll down there, and it is, now, of course, it does not include the surcharges, and it doesn't include things like peak usage charges. But you start to get a handle on this, and this is where you find some states. Hawaii, I think, is like the most expensive.
Well, you have to ship those electrons by boat.
You got to ship those electrons by boat, man. Big capacitors. And I know some of the southern states, Tennessee, I thought was pretty darn cheap. But yeah, it would be interesting if any of you guys are not on it. And this is a completely free site. I mean, I allow people to pay me money if they've got a little extra to throw around. But my Substack is completely free to everybody. I don't have a paywall up. So it's just rvelectricity.substack.com. I'll go ahead and post that. If I don't have a chance tomorrow, I'll post it on Saturday. But it was a fascinating chart because you could see the comparison back over a year or two of what the costs really were, per kilowatt hour. But yeah, it does. That feels a little bit much. But okay, but again, if they lowered their overnight rate, now, so Caitlin, so here's the question: Is this for like a day traveler, a day camper, or is this just for a long term? If you can get back to us an answer, is it something just for long term, or is it just somebody that's camping on the weekend? And we'll think about that. But yeah, nobody wants to mark up stuff, but everybody marks up stuff. Oh, wait a minute, Caitlin's got info. Kilowatt by state. So, yeah, Alabama, 12.41. Yeah, kilowatt hour, blah, blah. Alaska, 22. Arizona, Arkansas. So what you're saying is, it does seem like you were where Alabama and 20. Alabama should be about 12.41. So it looks like they are marking up. So you're long-term staying for a year. Okay, so again, I don't pretend to know all of the bits and pieces of it. I've just talked to a few lawyer types here recently that called me about this because they know I was doing electrical studies and they wanted to know how much power do campers really use, and I said a lot.
Yeah, I mean, some of these, especially 3 air conditioner units. I mean, that you get 3 air conditioners, run the electric water heater, perhaps a fireplace. Well,
Right.
You're not doing both of those at the same time, but they can be pretty thirsty for power.
It could be power hungry. They really are. So and again, so I can see a lot of you guys are worried that campsites are going to gouge you for this. I hadn't really thought about this. I was guessing that they would probably be honest. So campsites, maybe I'm just a baby. Don't think about this, right? So the idea here is that the campers, RVers, are worried that they're going to mark it up excessively, or they're going to tweak the meters so it says they're using more, or people are going to steal power from them. These seem to be like real worries, real issues.
I think people are not trusting campground owners, and I wonder what the incentive would be to mark up power. I would imagine, let's say they meter the rates, and it's the rates that whatever your power company charges, and you go from Texas to Northern California, and all of a sudden you're like, what do you mean it's 42 cents a kilowatt hour? You probably are not going to believe that that's really the rate, but it's really the rate.
It's really the rate,
So,
yeah, yeah. And and this is some of the stuff that happened in Texas, 2 years ago, with the big winter stuff. Texas is not part of the grid, so that they don't have to comply with a bunch of federal regulations in terms of backup power and safety systems and heating systems. And some of these guys, when they had that big ice storm, they ended up with what was like $1,500 a month rather than the 30 or $40 they were used to paying. It went up to like $1,000 or more,
oh
because
man,
they said, well, it's in your contract. We can charge whatever you want. So if things are going easy, you're paying $50 a month. If things are not going easy, you're paying $5,000 a month.
yeah, everything was good in Texas until everything wasn't good in
Until
Texas,
it
and
wasn't
all of a
good, and
sudden,
it
you know,
froze. And apparently, they didn't bother to put like heated buildings around the valve stations and such, so the valves just froze that were moving nat gas around, and things just shut down.
yeah, yeah,
I mean,
it was
regulations are
super
are a
bad.
good thing.
Yeah, yeah, we all want our freedom until the fan stops spinning. At which point you're like, well, how come you didn't regulate
Right.
this?
I
Well,
didn't
you told
regulate
me
it.
not to.
So, and again, the campgrounds, they used to be, it was just kind of a little, a little nicety to have a little power in there. But now, I mean, I know guys. So, for instance, when I do it, I'm out. I've got my whole office set up. Tony, you do your own office stuff. You need to have
Hmm.
power, but you could run, you could do anything. You're running off of a cell phone right now, freaking cell
I
phone for
am.
this video.
Well, and
Um,
there's a reason I bring multiple sources of everything I need, right? I've got
right.
th three cell plans and a Starlink dish, and the only thing that worked for this was a cell plan.
Yeah.
And we've got our big lithium battery in the trailer, but I also have a portable power station. So I like
Right.
backups because sometimes that fan just quits spinning because you know
Yeah.
why.
Yeah. Now, have you got your DC to DC charger in yet or not? I think you were talking about one, right?
I have not because no, I intend to. I didn't on the previous truck because I knew that previous truck was going away, and now I'm going to go up to Indiana to the folks at ABC Upfitters and have them put one in, but I
I've
don't
got
have
a
it yet.
Yeah, I've got a spare 30 amp red arc unit. I think I'm going to put in as soon as it gets nice in the spring.
Ooh.
And it will also allow you to integrate a solar panel into it too, as well. So I'm really thinking about sticking a couple of solar panels on the top of my truck cap, and then run that into this thing to run it into feedback through an Anderson connector into the RV. But that's just because I can. Okay, so
Yeah,
let's see.
yeah.
Caitlin also says something. December 1st, $162 total electricity charges plus $280.94. Can you make sense of that?
Well, let's see. December 1st. Oh, last year their electric rate was 162. I'm going to assume the 280 is this year's rate.
The
Though,
total
was it
charges?
exceptionally cold? Was she running electric space heaters or a fireplace or whatnot? I, that would be, but
And,
I'm
and
assuming her electricity, the charge for electricity went up on her uh, seasonal site.
okay, so let's see. Snoopy, two Jeeps. Mike and Tony. Tony with a Y now. Thank you. Thanks for taking your
Ah,
free
hey,
time to help
I've
us in
been
our travels.
upgraded.
Okay, FYI, my monthly electric bill is about $75 a month if I run my milling machine and lathe a few days. So you have a milling machine and a lathe in your RV?
Well, you know, some of these have really good pass-through storage compartments.
Yeah. Oh, Caitlin says she cut off what he was saying. If you can send it again, we'll put it up. But yeah, and this is again, where what gets this stuff is inefficiencies of like electric heating is a very inefficient way to do things overall. Heat pumps would be better, but you've got to have a modern one that actually works at low temps. Most RV ones, they're not very good once you get below 40 degrees Fahrenheit. They just don't do it. I installed one in my house. last year, and it's been fabulous for air conditioning and heat pump. I'm going to put like a 4-banger unit on the other side of my house. Now I've got a 100-year-old house. Now what I was able to do is I changed out 68 windows, I think, over the last 10 years to the best high energy efficient ones you get. I mean, I've got this big, massive house. And so we just did this a room at a time. Luckily, I've got a contractor, a buddy of mine, who plays guitar with me in bands and such. And we get stuff at contractor prices, and then he basically works for food. And we just, but my wife's got to put up with us humming and singing stupid rock tunes while we're doing this. And I help him in his stuff. So I've gotten this stuff at really an exceptionally good price. But the difference in terms of heating and comfort and everything is phenomenal because we were able to get best grade stuff. And I don't think they've got this in RVs. They just don't.
Yeah, it's the stuff in RVs is still, it's 1970s technology for the most part. I mean, we used to have a 1970 Aristocrat landliner, and we went and visited it over this adventure that we're on, and everything it's the same tech as what we have in our current RV. In fact, the guy who bought it replaced the I don't remember what component in the water heater with one out of a modern water heater, and it's a 70 or what is it, a 50-year-old RV. So
yeah. Okay, so Caitlin has put up meter reading previous current units, price per date time, blah blah blah. Okay, so so this must be 118. I'm trying to decode this. Can you decode this, Tony? I'm having trouble decoding what.
Yeah, let's see. So, let's see. All right, I'm gonna have to put on my glasses here so I can see this. Let's see, current units per day, price per day. So 22.
Yeah, she says she just cut and pasted in the thing, and it didn't do a great job.
Yeah. So it looks like she's paying 11-ish cents a kilowatt hour. Is that it?
I don't know. Caitlin, can you, if you would be so kind, can you just put this in a sentence? Just say, okay, I was paying this, I'm now paying that, or whatever, if you could, because we're having trouble deciphering it. We'll be on here for a little bit more. It's 8 o'clock right now. So we'll give this another 5 or 10 minutes if you like. The time flies when you're having fun.
When you're having fun.
No, I love thinking about this. This is a brain teaser. I mean, if this was easy, anybody would do it.
And there's so many variables, right? I mean, all of a sudden, if you start charging for power as a line item or a component, you're going to see a greater emphasis or desire for more efficient RVs, which will bring down the cost, which will open up more boondocking. So in some ways, as an incentive to make RVs better, I kind of like it. But as an RVer, and I'm cheap, I don't like it.
Yeah, and look at it this way. What I have found, and everybody knows this, but nobody does it. If you just keep your speed limit down to 60 or 65 miles per hour, your gas mileage is really pretty good. Once you start hitting 70, 75, but I got guys that are just hauling butt down the road with RVs. And they're getting 8 or 9 miles per gallon, maybe. And if they would settle down to 60 miles an hour, they would be getting an extra 3 or 4 miles per gallon. I mean, I've done it.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's there's, especially with this newer, bigger truck, it's real easy to go fast with it because it's a big old honking engine. But I get notes from the Department of Energy that's like, dude, come on, slow down, buddy.
Slow down. Now, a lot of times when I'm in business travel, I will tell you honestly, I used to travel. I used to drive from Maryland to Seattle to teach in a Sprinter, and I would do it in 3 days solo, which is like 18 hours a day driving, pedal to the metal. I mean, just cranking on this, and then I would hit all the different states on the way back. And I did that a bunch of times. But if I'm camping, wouldn't you say, I'm going to do 300 miles today?
Oh,
maybe.
if even that much. We are
Yeah,
usually 250 to 300 on a
yeah,
long day. And you look at the like Google or Apple or whatever map thing you have tells you, oh, it's only going to take you, 5 hours, and then 8 hours later,
yeah.
you're like, oh, look, a big ball of twine.
Big ball of twine. Yeah, look at that roller skate. That must be 20
Yeah,
feet long.
that's the that's the biggest rocking chair in the U.S.
That's right. Okay, so Caitlin finally says November was 486 kilowatt hours at 22 cents. December was
Okay.
636 kilowatt hours at 23.17 cents. Okay, so now the very good, Caitlin. So that
Ah,
makes sense. Now that makes sense. And so for you guys, you know how to do this. You just multiply that 486 times the 0.2223, and all of a sudden you find out what your total electric bill for that was. So basically, the difference between, you can see November to December used 100 odd more kilowatt hours, 150 more kilowatt hours, right,
yeah,
of power. I'm guessing from
yeah.
electric heat, right? Um, Electric heat takes a lot. One of the things that I've found is electric blankets work great, but only if you're on pure sine inverters. I've had a couple of guys actually catch their electric blanket controllers on fire if they've plugged into a modified sine inverter. So I can't recommend
Oh,
that. Although this spring I'm going to do this because my wife said, "Yeah, our electric blanket's getting junky." She bought me a new electric blanket for Christmas. That's love, baby, love. And I said, the old one, do not throw it away because I'm going to go take it out as soon as it gets nice and put it back on the concrete slab in the back so I don't catch the house on fire, and put it on a modified sine inverter. I've got a really, really junky one back here. Hold on one second to see if I can reach this. Look at this baby.
oh
Do you believe
man.
this is a 5,000 watt inverter? It cost me $35 from China with shipping. With shipping.
Well,
Look at
but it's
that bad
that
boy.
famous brand Hoodiwada Wada.
Whatever. Yeah. So I fired it up and looked at it on a scope. It looks like it makes square waves coming out of it. And so basically anything that you plug into it, like your computer or electric blanket, all of that extra harmonics is just going to turn into heat. If anything can melt down an electric blanket, it'll be that.
Well, here's how you get a new computer. You wait until 2 days before the warranty is expired, plug it into that pure sine or that modified sine wave inverter, fry the thing, go
Yeah,
back
that
to the
thing.
computer store and go, hey, I don't know what happened.
I don't know. I have no idea what happened. I know nothing. Yeah, I know nothing. Okay, so I think we're good for tonight. I tell you what, guys. If you've got more questions, you can leave comments in here later, and I will look them up. And then what I'm going to do is gather all of these bits and pieces together for a couple of the campgrounds that we're talking to. And Tony, is there any last minute things we think of? Wait a minute. Oh, Caitlin says, we use the heat pump and electric fireplace during the day and the furnace at night when it's colder. Yeah, see, that's wise. That's smart. Have you got any
Well,
other words of wisdom or complaints for?
I do not. I not at all. But I don't know what the power rate is there in Alabama. So, and it might be based on time of day. I don't know. So many variables. That's the problem, right? There's not just one answer. There are many hundreds of answers.
Well, the nice thing, if I really wanted to do a real test, I actually have access to an environmental chamber that I could pull the biggest darn RV tour
I
bus. You
I
you know
know
what I'm talking
which.
about. We can't say
I
the
know
name.
what you're talking
And
about.
I can take that anywhere from, I don't know, down to zero up to whatever crazy amounts of heat and humidity that I want. Um, and I just have to have
Yeah,
a reason to test something. I want to do
and then
this.
they measure how quickly the RV can either cool or heat itself
Right.
as a
And you
there's
can
that.
measure the temperature going in and out, and it's got a suction hose for the exhaust, so you can be running the onboard generator. I mean, God, I
Yeah,
just
it's
love this stuff.
neat.
I don't know how much this costs, but yeah, you've been in it, haven't you?
I haven't been in it, no,
Oh,
but
I've been in it. I
I
spent
am
weeks in
very
it.
aware of it because
But
they I was trying to talk them out of some of their equipment to put in my own trailer, and I have not been able to do so yet.
Okay, so I've got one final note here about those small nuclear power plants. What happens when the campground summer temps try to manage them? Yes, I love it. So that's your we're campers. Go there and pull those fuel rods out of there. Why don't you? Okay.
Well, I mean, those summer temps also rewire some of the pedestals, and you plug in with your whatever, like our Hughes Power Watchdog, and the dog goes.
So John, and he just asked, please let us know what the campground owners took from our gathering. It would be interesting to know. We're going to feed this back and forth. I'm trying to be the guy in the middle of this, the voice of reason, to kind of help figure out what's going on. Oh, Richard says boom with the nuclear rods, yes. The meltdown. All right, everybody. Well, Tony, thank you so very much for taking time out of sunbathing out in California or whatever the heck it is that you're doing out there.
Yeah, well, we're right in the shadow of the Queen Mary. So when we were first testing, I heard it blow its horn.
Cool. And thank you all for showing up. Leave other comments there wherever you are. We'll try to pull this stuff together. And as I gather more data, then I'll go ahead and publish all this stuff over on, on my Substack. And Tony will put this up over on his Stressless Camping, various things there. All right?
Yep.
All right, everybody. Good night. Thank you very much.
Have a good evening and Stressless Camping.
Yeah, bye.